Beginnings matter. How you begin a yoga class is often how you begin anything. A new year, a new day, even a new relationship or job. In this episode, I'm sharing why the start of a practice matters, how we arrive with attention, breath, and curiosity, and how what we learn on the mat carries into real life. This isn't about doing more or trying harder. It's about beginning and letting the practice guide the next step. Before we move on, a quick note about the breath practice you're about to hear. The audio makes it sound quicker than it is. Ujjayi breathing is slow and steady with gentle sound. So trust the feeling, not the recording. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to the Youthful Older Yogi podcast. I'm MJ Waddell, your host and founder of Share Yoga. I've been teaching, practicing, and loving yoga for nearly 30 years. I'm an advocate of movement, creativity, and staying healthy in mind and body after 50. It's never too late to start, and there's a lot of healthy years ahead. So let's start now. Hi, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Youthful Older Yogi. I'm MJ Waddell, the creator and founder of Share Yoga and your host for this podcast. This is the first podcast of 2026, and I've entitled it Beginnings Matter, how we start our yoga class and how we start anything. So thank you so much for joining me. I've been thinking a lot about beginnings. Of course, many of us do during the new year. I'm filming this today. It's January 3rd. Yes, January 3rd. And when you see this, it'll be January 8th, I believe, or 10th. Actually, it'll be January 10th when you see this. And my birthday is the 9th. So it's January, beginning of January. There's a lot of new beginnings. A birthday, the new year, just a lot of stuff to reflect upon. So I kept coming back to the same question. How do I begin? How have I begun anything that I've started? And then I realized I actually think about this. And if you're a teacher, you actually think about this every single time you teach a class. How do you begin your class? How do you invite people in? How do you help them to arrive and begin their practice? So beginnings matter. Whether it's in a yoga class, whether it's the start of a new year, whether it's the beginning of a new job, a new relationship, the beginnings really do matter. So, and I also thought the way I begin a yoga class is a beautiful example of how we can begin anything in our lives, anything at all. So that's what we're talking today. Why beginnings matter and how a beginning and how we enter into that beginning shapes everything that comes next. So I'm going to start about the talk of a yoga class. When people walk into a yoga class, they don't arrive as a blank slate. They're not all Zen. They're probably the exact opposite. They arrive with the conversations in the head. They arrive with tired feet, tired minds, worries, cares, and who else knows what? We don't know what they're entering with. So the beginning of class, and I'll just tell you some of the things that I do to invite my students to their practice. I just invite them first to settle into their bodies, pay attention to whatever sensations arise, and take a few really good, deep breaths, and then thank themselves for simply getting to class and showing up. Many times that in itself, that is the victory. They got there and you got there to teach them. So at the beginning, I really try to set the tone, depending on what I want to teach, what time of day it is, if I know the students, if it's a general class. So there's a lot of factors. But really, the point is that the beginning of anything sets the tone, not through a pushing or an effort, but really inviting attention, through attention. So let's talk about morning classes. Okay, so morning classes are much different than an evening class. In the mornings, people are a lot fresher. Their minds haven't been pulled in a million different directions. Their body might be a little stiff if they just rolled out of bed, but the nervous system really hasn't been completely wrung out yet, because it's early. But who knows? They may have had quite a time just getting to class. And then evening classes are a whole different story. People have already lived an entire day. They may have made, or they have made, 1,000 decisions. They may have had to deal with lots of stress, grief, frustration, or just plain overload. So in the evening, I'm not just teaching, I'm holding on to a space where, for everything that came before that, which I don't know what came before that, but I'm assuming, and probably from what I've heard from most of my students, the evening class, they just want to lay down sometimes. They just want to lay down. And so you can let them do that. We just don't know what kind of day they've had. So the most reliable thing that I have found when I begin my yoga class to help people arrive, no matter what time of day it is, it's the breath. It's the breath. The classes that I teach Ujjayi breath, but it's not a prerequisite to be to be used in class. You know, I used to say all the time, don't forget to breathe, don't forget to breathe. I don't even say that anymore. No one's forgetting how to breathe. They're just going to breathe differently throughout the class. So I feel like my job as a teacher is more to help them recall attention to the breath. How is the breath feeling? And so they can have agency over their own breath. So I'm going to actually take you through how I start my classes, introduce the Ujjayi breath. So typically I have them find their seat, and their seat can be against a wall, sitting on blocks, sitting on their mat. If they want to lay down, they can lay down. So it's up to them. Most times they're sitting. And then many times, if you've taught a class over and over again, what I found is that I teach Ujjayi breath, and a lot of the people come back week after week after week. But it never hurts to keep teaching them each week. I've shied away from saying, okay, go ahead and start to invite your Ujjayi breath in. I just say, we're going to start with the Ujjayi breath, and I do it with them because I want to start with my breath too for centering. It's not just my class. I need the centering, and I need to set the tone for the beginning of how I teach the rest of the class. And many times you'll get people in there, you know, if you say, oh, just start your Ujjayi breath, they'll be like, well, first of all, I don't even know what she's talking about, and I have no idea how to do that. And then that might set the tone in their mind going, oh, I'm not going to be breathing correctly the whole time. And I don't want to, you know, have them think that. So I teach it one breath at a time. So you've walked into my class, we're seated, class is starting, and I say, okay, everyone, just go ahead and settle yourself down into your seat where you have a posture that is comfortable for you, but an alert posture. And I'm going to walk you through the Ujjayi breath. Go ahead and imagine that you have a compact or you have a mirror in front of your mouth, and you're going to, or a pair of glasses, whatever you want to use as your object, and you're going to fog up that mirror or that compact or those glasses. You're going to try to fog it up with your breath. So I instruct them to put their hand in front of their mouth, and with an open mouth, exhale, and imagine that the palm of your hand is the compact or a pair of glasses or a mirror. And go ahead and exhale through your mouth to fog up that mirror. Okay, we do that a few times. And then I have them, as they breathe normally, I'm letting them just take an inhale, do that again, fog up that mirror with your exhalation and an open mouth. Take an inhale. However they want to inhale, don't instruct that yet. And exhale again to fog up that mirror. Now they've done it 4 or 5 times. So there's no forcing, no straining, just a soft, steady sound, like an ocean or a gentle whisper. So I add that in. And then after a few times, then I instruct them to try to reverse that. So for an example, you're fogging up the mirror, and then you want to reverse that and take that fog back into your mouth. So with an open mouth, go ahead, exhale and fog up the mirror, and inhale through an open mouth the opposite way. It's like you're drawing that air, that exhalation right back in through an open mouth. So exhale to fog up the mirror with an open mouth. Inhale with an open mouth and take that exhale back in. Let's say do that 2 or 3 times. And then so this takes maybe about 30, 45 seconds to do that. And then I'll say, now, halfway through one of your exhales with an open mouth, gently close your lips and continue that whispering sounding oceanic breath. And it goes like this. And then reverse it and take it back in with your mouth gently closed. And then I just have them experiment with that a few times. It's simple, it's kind, there's no pressure. I keep inviting them to relax, and if anytime they feel anxious about it, just return to their natural breathing anytime during class. So that's how I start it. And it also, brings attention to the breath, it anchors their attention to the sound. It's just something you can come back to anchor for yourself and anchor for them through your class. And also at the beginning of class, so maybe just try that out. Maybe try it out for yourself. I hope you did it with me if you've never practiced Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi means victorious, uprising. It's it's used in many of the vinyasa classes. But if they don't want to learn it, they don't have to learn it. They can just breathe naturally in and out. Try to encourage them to breathe in and out through their nose. When they exhale through an open mouth during something more strenuous towards the end of class, that's different. Okay? Also, at the beginning of class, I am reading the room. Is there a lot of talking? Is there a buzz? Are people already lying down? What's the room feel like? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it quiet? Is it loud? So this is part of teaching. It's not something extra. You have to learn how to read the room. Sometimes in the mornings, I teach a morning class on Mondays, and it's in a community where everybody in the class knows each other. They are chatty, 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 chatty. Sometimes I just have to wait because I won't yell over them. I'll just sit down and smile. They'll get it. They understand. But they know me. I've been teaching it there for 2 years. So one thing I used to ask was, is anybody requesting any certain pose or anything I can throw in to the practice? I never do that anymore. Because someone's personal request might be exactly what someone else doesn't want to do or can't do that day, right? So someone might request, hey, can we throw in, Warrior 3, which is, you don't just throw it in, you have to instruct it if you're teaching older students. I'm always coming from a place of teaching older students, okay, mostly. But the breathing, anybody. This is general for anybody. And if you ask people, anybody feel like something special today? That can throw off your whole plan. So I don't do that. I just trust the plan I've created, which almost always morphs into something else, something different. And I just stay flexible enough to adjust after I feel the room. You can do that even after you teach a pose. You're starting to teach a pose and you can read how they're feeling about it. Their grunts, their groans, their eye rolls, their unwillingness. They're just staring at you. So you have to read their reactions and read the room throughout the entire class. So that balance plus sensitivity to what's going on energetically and what creates safety. Okay, now I want to talk about
teaching privately, which is a whole nother thing. So whether it's online or in person, this is when you really have an opportunity to check in and ask, how's your energy today? It's a one-on-one. How are you feeling? How are you feeling physically, emotionally? Is there anything you want to lean towards or stay away from today? So you can customize it for your online, your private students, and you really get to know them. And that conversation becomes part of the beginning and part of you creating a relationship with your one-on-one student. But in group classes, the beginning is about just holding the container for everyone. Not so easy to do. And then this is how yoga, it teaches us something bigger. Its beginnings don't have to be dramatic. They don't have to be a complete overhaul. They don't have to involve working harder or fixing yourself. Whether it's a new year, a new habit, a new moment in your life, you just begin by arriving, by breathing, by noticing, by reading your own room, your own sensations, your own feelings, your own thoughts. And just like yoga, it's not something, yoga or beginnings, they're something new. It's not something to conquer. It just meets you exactly where you are. So as we start the 2026 podcast, I just want to leave you with wherever you are in your yoga practice, or if you've never practiced yoga or you never have any intention to practice yoga, it's okay. It's the way you begin. You begin everything. But if you are practicing yoga, just maybe reflect about how you start your at-home practice, or when you go to a class, or when you teach a class. The way you've heard the saying, the way you do anything is the way you do everything, but you can change that. So just maybe get curious about how you start your yoga practice. And do you start the beginning of anything else in your life that same way, with curiosity, with kindness, maybe a little less effort and a little bit more listening. Beginnings really do matter, and they don't need to be big. They just need to be honest. So if you're starting something this year, beginning something, I wish you all the best. Just be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, start breathing deeply. And remember, however you start it just leads into what will happen next. So I'm excited to be here with you in 2026. As always, please visit my website, shareyogawithmj.com. Shareyogawithmj.com. I'm so glad to be beginning the year with you. Send me a message of how you approach a beginning, any beginning. I'd love to hear from you. Anything. I'd love to hear from you. And I look forward to being with you throughout 2026. So once again, thank you for either listening or watching, and, like, subscribe, thumbs up, all of this stuff, share it, send it out to friends so more people can, if they want to, and they can get use out of this. If anything, if you know a yoga teacher or you are a teacher yourself, the Ujjayi breath, I just gave you, a little tutorial on how you can start to teach it in your own way. All right, friends, thank you again so much for being here. Happy New Year. Happy new everything. Happy new beginning. And keep sharing yoga. Namaste.
Thank you so much for listening. Now you can go to my show notes on YouTube or Buzzsprout and send me a voicemail or email. I'd love to hear what topics you'd like me to speak about, what your thoughts are on the episodes, and maybe I'll share your message on a future episode. Please subscribe to my website, shareyogawithmj.com, so you can receive my newsletters and be first to know about my retreats, workshops, courses, and freebies. If you navigate on social media, you can find me mostly on Facebook and a bit on Instagram at Mary Jane Waddell. That's Jane with a Y, Jayne. This podcast would not be possible without the help of my editor, Dan Jones from Cocoa Beach Productions. You can find Dan at cocoabeachweb.com. And of course, thanks to my generous guests who share their time, insights, and youthful wisdom. Remember, the Youthful Older Yogi podcast is presented solely for educational, inspirational, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician or other qualified professionals. Okay, yogis, stay well, stay youthful, and keep sharing yoga.